Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Vrajjanaranjana. Yasodanandana Vrajjanaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Vrajjanaranjana. Yasodanandana Vrajjanaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ke jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhutikacharya Sotara Satasi Srimad HG Bhakti Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhugan ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Gir Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samavida Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru. Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vishnu Padai Krishna Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Vijayani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting here from the 5th canto, first, 2nd chapter, activities of Maharaja Agnidhra, text number 2. You want to chant the? Thank you, Dravida.
Sacha Pitrloka Kamaha Sudavada Vanita Krida Chaladronyam Bhagavantam Vishwasvajam Patam Abrita Padicharyopakaranat Atmaikagriyena Tapasvyaradhayam Babhuva.
Word for word synonyms. Saha, he, King Agnidhra. Cha, also. Kadachit, I love this one. Once upon a time. Pitrloka, the Pitrloka planet. Kamaha, desiring. Suravara, of the great demigods. Vanita, the women. Akrida, the place of pastimes. Achaladronyam, in one valley of the Mandara hill. Bhagavatam, unto the most powerful Lord Brahma. Vishvasrajam, of personalities who've created this universe. Patim, the master. Abrita, having collected. Parichaya upakarnaya, ingredients for worship. Atma, of the mind. Eka agrayena, with full attention. Tapasvi, one who executes austerity. Aradayam, babhuva, became engaged in worshiping. Translation, desiring to get a perfect son and become an inhabitant of Pitrloka. Maharaja Agnidhra once worshipped Lord Brahma, the master of those in charge of material creation. He went to a valley of Mandara hill, where the damsels of the heavenly planets come down to stroll. There he collected garden flowers and other necessary paraphernalia, and then engaged in severe austerities and worship. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Pack full, this one. The king became Pitrloka Kama. Our desires are being transferred to the planet called Pitrloka. Pitrloka is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Yanti deva vrta devan pritrin yanti pritir vrtaha. To go to this planet, one needs very good sons who can make offerings to Lord Vishnu and then offer the remnants to their forefathers. The purpose of the Shraddha ceremony is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, so that after pleasing him, one may offer prasad to one's forefathers, in this way make them happy. The inhabitants of Pitrloka are generally men of the karma, kandiya, or fruit of activities category, who have been transferred there because of their pious activities. They can stay there as long as their descendants offer them Vishnu Prasad. Everyone in heavenly planets, such as Pitrloka, however, must return to earth after exhausting the effects of his pious acts. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Shine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. Persons who perform pious acts are transferred to higher planets, but when the effects of their pious acts are over, they are again transferred to earth. Since Maharaj Priyavrata, of course that's the father, how could he have begotten a son who desired to be transferred to Pitrloka? Lord Krishna says, Yanti Pitrvitaha, persons who desire to go to Pitrloka are transferred there. Similarly, Yanti Majaji Nopi Mam. Persons who desire to be transferred to the spiritual planets, Vaikuntha Lokas, can also go there. Since Maharaja Agnidhra was the son of a Vaishnava, he should have desired to be transferred to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha Loka. Why then did he desire to be transferred to Pitrloka? In answer to this, Goswami Girdhara, one of the Bhagavatam commentators, remarks that Agnidhra was born when Maharaj Priyavrata was infatuated by lusty desires. This may be accepted as a fact because sons are begotten with different mentalities according to the time of their conception. According to the Vedic system, therefore, before a child is conceived, the Garbhadhana Samskar is performed. This ceremony molds the mentality of the father in such a way that when he plants his seed in the womb of his wife, he'll beget a child whose mind will be completely saturated with the devotional attitude. At the present moment, however, there are no such Garbhadhana Samskaras, and therefore, people generally have a lusty attitude when they beget children. Especially in this age of Kali. There are no Garbhadhana ceremonies. Everyone enjoys sex with his wife like a cat or dog. Therefore, according to Shastric conjunctions, almost all the people of this age belong to the Shudra category. Of course, although Maharaj Agnidhra had a desire to be transferred to Pitrloka, this does not mean that his mentality was that of a Shudra. He was a Kshatriya. Maharaj Agnidhra desired to be transferred to Pitrloka, therefore he needed a wife, because anyone desiring to be transferred to Pitrloka must leave behind a good son to offer yearly pinda or prasad from Lord Vishnu. To have a good son, Maharaj Agnidhra wanted a wife from a family of demigods. Therefore he went to Mandara Hill, where the women of the demigods generally come to worship Lord Brahma. Bhagavad Gita is said, Kankshanta Kamana Siddhim Yajanta Iha Devataha. Materialists who want quick results in this material world worship demigods. It's confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Aishvarya Prajapsvaha. Those who desire beautiful wives, substantial wealth, and many sons will worship the demigods. But an intelligent devotee, instead of being entangled by the happiness of this material world in the form of a beautiful wife, material opulence, and children, desires to be immediately transferred back home, back to Godhead. Thus he worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Could we please chant our prayers together? Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivta Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Little bit of a mind blower that the son of Maharaj Priyavrata would want to go to Pitrloka. Sometimes some of the other religionists, they have an idea that in the kingdom of God you get to be with your wife, your mother, your father, your siblings, your children. And they look very much forward to being reunited with them. And this idea is actually played out in Pitrloka. If one is attached, really attached, but you don't want the relationship and the reciprocations to end, then you can worship the forefathers, your forefathers. And in time, Krishna will reciprocate with your desire. If that's what you want, okay, you can go there. That's interesting. Let's think a little bit about lifespans. Swayambhuva Manu, the father of Priyavrata Manu. Anybody have any idea how long he might have lived? He's a Manu. He lives, there's 14 Manus in a day of Brahma. So that's a life. How do you say that? Day of Brahma. So you have 78, if I'm not mistaken, Divya Yuga cycles. For the ages taken together, times 78. That's a long time. Do you roughly know how much the Divya Yuga cycle is? You got 360, then twice as much as that. You got 1 million, then you got another 2, then you probably got another 2. So like 4 million times 7, 28, 280 plus million years. That's a long lifetime. Now for us humans here in Varsha, we live, if we're lucky, and I will say that with a little bit of or unlucky, however you may feel, according to your health or consciousness, your karma, we can live to be 100 years old. That's pretty much it. That's in this age of Kali. Dwarpa, 1,000 years. Treta, 10,000 years. Starting to sound like, wow, that's a long time. Satyuga, 100,000 years. That's how they could meditate. Process was meditation. Realize the Lord within one's heart. Long time. But it's all relative. It all seems like 100 years. That's how it's explained. Lord Brahma's inconceivable lifetime. Entirety of the duration of the universal creation. Seems like 100 years. He's about 50 plus years, barely over 50 right now. Half his life is gone. So now we talk about these. So Maharaj Priyavrata wasn't a Manu, he's a son of Manu. But when we talk about that 1 billion, what was it, 100 million? 1,100 million? 1,100 million. That's long. How, 280 million we said for the Manu? Golly, that's not even a fourth. Special concession. So who knows how long Maharaja Agnidhra lives. I don't know if it says. But in his mind, he's thinking it's not long enough. First of all, he's going to responsibly take care of the duties that his father and Lord Brahma want him to do. He's a Kshatriya. He's going to rule over all of Jambudweep, the 8 Varshas, including Bharatvarsha. Well, he needs a son, that's obvious. That was part of Priyavrata's management package. Got to have a wife and son so that they can take over the service. But he also had his personal motive. Well, I want to get the best of wives, and I want to be able to enjoy with her longer than my destined allotment in this life. Thus, he's thinking about Pitrloka. He had several sons, 7, 8 sons. So he covered his bases there. But he wasn't just like some lusty man going out into the marketplace, to the bar scene or what have you. Let me find a heavenly damsel. He went to a valley in Mandara Hill, Mandara Mountain. It says a lot of the demigods went there. But he went there to perform worship in severe austerities to please Lord Brahma. And it doesn't say in this purport, but Lord Brahma was pleased with his worship, and he deputed, instructed Purvachitti, a heavenly damsel from his court, to go and be his wife. We cannot imagine how beautiful a woman she would have been, Purvachitti. You can't imagine. I mean, sometimes they say that the demigods, and she's in the higher realm, highest realms of the demigods. She's doing service in Lord Brahma's court, highest planet in the universe. They make us humans, male or female, look like frogs. We may think there's some beauty there, but oh my gosh. So she accepted the service. She went down. She was dressed so attractively. You know, she did all her feminine things. Attracted him like anything. Agnidhra. And he was an expert flatterer. It sounds like that whole episode we had about Paranjan. He was expert too. Well, he twisted her around his finger, even though he's in the, what do we say? I mean, he's above the humans. He's the ruler of the humans, and Deva's in the different Varshas. He's up there. I don't know how to categorize him, except son of Priyavrata, son of Swayambhuva Manu, son of Lord Brahma. But she thought, yeah, I'll marry this man. It's a good catch. And she gives him 8 children, and it's interesting, these heavenly damsels. They do their gig, and then they get back to their whatever they do, and these singing, dancing, and what have you. He didn't get to live till death do they part. So maybe that whet his appetite also. But this is even before meeting her. And the question is, why did he want that? So Prabhupada quotes one of the commentaries. When he would translate and give commentary to the Bhagavatam, he had a big, thick book of the commentators on the Bhagavatam. 7, 8, 9 of them, I forget. Evidently this Girdhari Goswami is one of them. And Prabhupada resonated. He said, yes, this must be true, that when Priyavrata was infatuated, lusty mode with his wife, that mentality begot Maharaja Agnidhra, so that he was lusty. And of course that segues into, how do you get good progeny? How do you get good children? Well, the process, the science is given in the Vedic scriptures. When I was in the household ashram, Srila Prabhupada was here. It's basically you chanted 50 rounds. For some of us, that's a lot of rounds. Nowadays, with all they know about the scriptures and the ritualistic activities of what do you call it, Pancharatrika Vidhi, the social stages of life for the human, there's a lot more added to it. And devotees are doing this in different parts of the world. Prabhupada said in the Bhagavatam purport, said demigods will line up to take birth in this movement. You want a devotional child? You have to follow the process. Krishna will reciprocate. And it isn't just a matter of chanting the 50 rounds, because then you have to train the child properly. What do they call it? You know, those two things. What influences, what creates somebody? Speak louder. Nature, one's nature, and then one's association, the nurture, who he's surrounded by, what qualities he is trained to acquire. So it's important. I mean, time in the human form of life is so valuable. And especially when the child is young. Komara acharya pragyo dharma bhagavataniya durlavam manasa janma tadapiya dhruvam artadam. From the very beginning of life, when the child is young, Prahlad heard in the womb instructions of transcendental knowledge from Narada Muni. It's so important to be fortified, to be strengthened, to be protected by this transcendental knowledge. And then you compare that bhakti with the activities of Maharaja Agnidhra. He performed severe austerities. Karma, khandya, austerities. And it's described that those are very strict. The rules and regulations of such worship have to be followed strictly. If not, you don't get the result. Yeah, Dravida Prabhu's probably referring to like when Indra deputed one Brahmin to do sacrifice to create an enemy of, to kill the enemy of Indra. He instead slipped a few words in there where the enemy of Indra would kill him. Very difficult. I mean, even in our own puja, there are standards. Like, I think even from bhaktas, you're learning how many circles to go around in offering the puja, to the feet, to the waist, to the face, to the body as a whole. I've heard devotees ask Pankajangri and Jananivas Prabhu, why do you do that numbers? They gave such a good answer. They said, well, how many circles would you offer if you were a Mahabhagavat lover of Krishna? You don't know. You don't have a clue. We don't have a clue what Krishna Prema is. We hear about it, and it's so incredibly attractive that we want it. But it's just like, what was that purple fruit we had not so long ago? What was that? Dragon fruit. I'd heard of it. Comes from like Thailand or something like that. And you look at it and it's going like, wow. And in your mind you might have some concept. But tasting's the proof. So the Mahabhagavats tell us, you do like this. And we follow. And I'm going to mention something because a godbrother of mine mentioned it to me. This is in relationship to puja. And it got me thinking. I remember the last time I saw one of our bhaktas offering Guru Puja. And in my mind, I immediately thought, wow, he's getting a lot of mercy. When I was Bhakta Raymond, I can't remember ever being given the opportunity to offer Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada. Did you, Dravida Prabhu? That didn't happen. It was the advanced devotees. I mean, if Prabhupada was personally present, no question, the sannyasis or the GBC or the senior men got to offer worship. And because it is, what do we say? Puja, Pancharatrik Vidi. There's rules and regulations to it. There's standards. And so my Prabhu was trying to influence me to influence you Prabhus. And he assumed that I agreed with him. And said, hold on here a minute. I'll tell you my mentality. That if that bhakta can appreciate what an incredible opportunity he's been given, the special concession, and we don't even really know if the concession's being authorized. Somebody was talking about that in the class. I think it was Vijay. Authorized means, what did he define it as? Authorized means it's accepted. When we do something that is not up to the standard, it may or may not be. But I said, if that devotee can develop their relationship with Prabhupada, if that discrepancy in ritualistic rules helps the devotee to develop their one-on-one personal relationship with Prabhupada, I could see Prabhupada blessing that devotee. The other thing that came to mind was when Krishna Balaram temple opened, the deities are being installed. First Artik Srila Prabhupada's worshiping Krishna Balaram. Next Artik, Tripurari Swami, Vaisheshika, and Sura Prabhus. And on Sura's altar, Radhashama Sundar, the fan wouldn't turn off, and it was on full blaze. He couldn't light or keep lit his fan. Probably kind of looked like, what? Who is that? What? Yeah, the lamp. I'm saying. What did I say? Flame? I said fan? Yeah. Thank you. The lamps. And Tamal Krishna and Maharaj said, they're Tripurari Swami's men. In other words, they were book distributors. Probably goes, oh, that's okay. Book distributors will get special concession of mercy from Srila Prabhupada. So you have to decide. Our authorities have to decide. I don't know. It's not my position. I'm just saying it never happened when Prabhupada was on the planet. Just like I'll give you an idea. Like you don't know. How could you? You didn't experience. But when Prabhupada was with us personally in the temple, and we were doing Guru Puja, and we would sing the second pranam mantra of Srila Prabhupada. Go ahead and do it all together. Namaste. Prabhupada! 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 Now, I don't want to look like a complete idiot. It's not easy to do. So I only yell out Prabhupada one time, but when Prabhupada was with us, every single devotee, practically without exception, did you have this experience? Would yell out Prabhupada. You can see pictures of the devotees so enlivened by the service they've rendered and that they're getting the mercy of being with Prabhupada personally. It would just come out. They couldn't wait to respond to the mantra. They wanted to glorify Prabhupada, and often they would sing. I saw it in a number of temples. It was so very nice. So if we can develop that personal enthusiasm to serve because of having received mercy from Prabhupada, that will carry us over all our indiscretions. And Lord knows, Prabhupada knows we have so many. I'm going to read to you. I suggest that anybody who does Guru Puja offer these prayers. afterwards. I won't do Sanskrit because of time. Oh my Lord, oh Janardhan, what little puja, whatever little puja or worship that's been performed by me, although it's without devotion, without proper mantras, without the proper performance, please let that become complete. Whatever has been offered with devotion, the leaf, the flower, the water, the fruit, the food stuff, which has been offered, please, out of your causeless mercy, accept it. Whatever has happened without the proper chanting of the mantra. Are they teaching the mantras also, or just the circles? There's mantras for each of the, at least for the incense, for the lamp, and there's Sanskrit, etc. Whatever's happened without the proper chanting of the mantra, or without following the proper procedure, kindly forgive all that. Whatever inauspicious things I've done out of ignorance or unknowingly, please forgive that. And accept me as your insignificant servant. Let my normal condition be service. Let my movements be, to the holy pilgrimage, or be holy pilgrimage. Let my thoughts be remembrance of you. Let my words be glorification of you. O Vishnu, let my activities with my whole mind and body and soul be engaged in you. Thousands of offenses are performed by me day and night, but thinking of me as your servant, kindly forgive those, O Madhusudana. O Govinda, your promise is that your devotee will never perish. By remembering this over and over again, I'm able to retain my life heirs. So these are on the cabinet door right when you go into the Pujari little hallway, whatever you want to call it. I highly recommend you chant those so that you get into the proper mood of you're an insignificant servant offering in a very imperfect way articles of worship to Srila Prabhupada. And also, on top of that, I want you to understand that you're doing it on behalf of all the devotees in the temple. It's not just you. It's not about you. One person gets to offer the worship, but we all will get the benefit, whether that pujari is conscious or not. But that's there. You should meditate like that. In other words, I'm a servant trying to serve Srila Prabhupada, and I'm asking my Guru, I'm asking the Vaishnavas to please bless me and let me act on their behalf so that they will be pleased. They will offer Srila Prabhupada that which is unclean, imperfect, coming from my consciousness. So anyway, those are rules even in bhakti, in the process of archana. But the karma kandi, it's even more sticky. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's all to get you to worship Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of God. He's worshipped first. He's offered foodstuffs, flowers, etc. And then the remnants, the Mahaprasadam, is offered to the forefathers. Lord Chaitanya himself went to Gaya when his father Jagannath Mishra passed away to perform the Shraddha ceremonies. He was in ecstasy because he went to Gaya and the Lord's footprint is there. Seeing the hundreds of Brahmins chanting the Vedic scriptures, the glorification of the Lord, he was in ecstasy. Seeing the mountains of garlands piled on the lotus foot, etc., etc. It was all just an inspiration for his Krishna consciousness manifesting, because he had kept it hidden with his academic pastimes up until that point. And of course he got to meet his spiritual master, Ishwar Puri, there and receive his mercy and shelter. So it's not that this is completely bogus, it's Vedic culture. But then we have Srila Prabhupada in his last months. Sri Damodar Swami was there and spent so much time with Prabhupada. One of his disciples has told me that he received more personal instruction from Prabhupada than any other disciple. Then I've also heard Tejas say that he might be able to make that claim also. That Prabhupada gave him so much instruction on how to preach there in India to politicians, the rich, the intelligent class of men. So, be it as it may, he got a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada, Srup Damodar. And his father passed away. Now, he was brought up in Manipur, a Vaishnav state. Used to be a kingdom, but Manipur. And so, of course, he felt the obligation to go and perform his duties for his deceased father. And he went and you always ask permission from your guru. He was a brahmachari. You don't act independently. You're the servant. He's the master. I have this desire. I'm presenting it to you. What do you think, Guru Maharaj? So Prabhupada said, it's not necessary. Don't go. Don't leave me. And he faithfully followed that order. Following the orders of gurus, it's the bedrock, it's the foundation of advancing in Krishna consciousness. Even this Maharaja Agnidhra, even though he's following a lower path in the Vedic scriptures, he's doing it perfectly. And so he's going to get his results. He'll get to go to Pitrloka. Of course, the Vaishnavas, they wonder, why in the world would you want to do that? You can go back to the spiritual kingdom. Prabhupada quoted, what is it? Shinye, punye. Marcha lokam vishanti. When the gas runs out, when your pious credits are on empty, that's it. You fall back to this earthly plane. Now, there are the other varshas in Jambudweep, and they're more heavenly. They're not creating karma there. They're still getting to enjoy semi-God levels of happiness. And you have all your heavenly gardens and so many things. And of course, there are deities of the Lord, presiding deities of the Lord in each of the varshas, and in the 5th canto we get to hear who worships there, what form of the Lord, etc. But sometimes when you're running out of gas and you got just a little bit left, you fall back down to those varshas. And then you kind of... And when it's all used up, then you come to earth, part varsha. Then you start the whole karma thing again. Why would you want that? I had a godbrother in the 80s, shortly after Srila Prabhupada had left. Not that long. And he would tell me, yeah, I'd like to go see the heavenly planets. They sound pretty awesome. And I would like, Prabhu, what are you thinking? So I met one godbrother in Rishikesh who wanted to go to Brahman, and I met one godbrother who wanted to go to heavenly planet. Oh, by Krishna's mercy, he's given up that foolishness. People don't get peg-holed. We peg-hold people in certain standards of time. But no. People grow. The process works. If you keep good association, then you get the benefit. So we want to keep good association. We want to keep the standards Srila Prabhupada gave us. We want to formulate the desire. Our parents didn't do Garbhadana Samskara. We got a couple of strikes against us. We got a mind that has a will of its own, Arjuna says. Can give us so much trouble. Doing its best to turn us around and get us out of the process of giving this life to Guru and Krishna. Don't listen to it. Don't give it an inch. Stick to the safety of the instructions of Guru and the standards given by Srila Prabhupada. They all come from Scripture. To any degree, you start adding or subtracting. Prabhupada says it's like the two parallel lines that are no longer parallel. Even if it's just slightly different, as time goes on, it's going to be... It won't be what we wanted. It won't be what was originally intended. Desire is so important in the life of anyone, the life of a devotee. I found this very interesting. It's one verse from 8:16 purport, the last one. Baladev Vidyabhushan in his commentary on this verse, because he's quoting, he's commenting on, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. One who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So he quotes this verse. When there's devastation in the material universe, Brahmanas devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness are all transferred to the spiritual universe and to specific spiritual planets according to their desires. That's something to contemplate. Desire is very powerful. Krishna reciprocates with it. We all started out from Krishna Loka. That's our understanding of Prabhupada's teachings. Most people that leave this world go to Vaikuntha. Somehow or other, we're some of the fortunate few who are being offered invitation to Goloka Vrindavan. The mercy's there, but we have to desire. We have to focus. We have to push ourselves to become more than just the complacent platform of following the rules and regulations. If you're getting mercy from doing service to Guru and Vaishnavas, to the Lord, your desire to do service will increase. Your desire to improve the service will increase. The desire to do more service will increase. That's the blessing. We're chanting for service when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And all petty desires can be purified, and we can get the same results that the Mahajans are offering to us, that Srila Prabhupada is offering to us. So, Maharaja Agnidhra, he's not a Shudra. He's a first-class Kshatriya. Mentioned he gets a whole chapter in the Bhagavatam. My goodness. He performed his duty nicely. 7, 8 sons, each one named after the Varsha that he took over, delegating the service of management. We offer our respects to him, and we learn from him by not doing what he did, not desiring what he desired. I mean, like I say, go to Pitrloka, and as soon as you have one generation where the sons are not offering the Mahaprashadam, that's it. You start to get hungry, you start to, oh my God, they start to cry. Our days are numbered here. It doesn't last. We want the eternal, and that's to be found in the service of Krishna and his devotees. We want service to Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan as being offered by Lord Chaitanya through the Sankirtan movement. So are there any questions or comments on any of this subject matter?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Vijay Krishna Prabhu. You set my obeisances.
My obeisances, Rajendranandana Prabhu, but if a local devotee wants to go first or a senior devotee...
You're on. Your enthusiasm gets you the first spot.
Thank you very much. Prabhu, I do not see the connection between being a Shudra and having this overwhelming desire and saying yes to the overwhelming desire for sex activity. And I'm
For what
saying this
activities?
because,
Sex?
Sex activity. Yes, for sex desire.
You don't see the correlation.
No, because, and allow me to say the following, to explain myself. Why is it that I cannot see the connection? Because in the institution of Varnashram Dharma, the Shudra class is advised to control the sex urge. So is it that there are two types of Shudra mentality? One is outside of Varnashrama Dharma, going for saying yes to incessant sex activity, and then there is the inside mentality in the institution of Varnashram Dharma for the Shudra to control his urge in order to serve better Lord Krishna.
That's a very good question, Vijay Prabhu. Very good question. Quoting the Narada Muni in the 7th canto, it's a fact. Shudra is part of Varnashram. If they follow the instructions given to them, and their only samskara, they don't do garbhadana samskara. Their only samskara is marriage. Get married and contain your desires of lust with one woman. That's what they do in terms of samskaras, and they serve the higher higher classes of men, those who are twice born, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. If they do that, they will advance. But Prabhupada, and thus we, often loosely use the term Shudra, because the scripture says, in the age of Kali, everyone's born a Shudra. So it's using a lower standard in the definition. Just like sometimes, we certainly did it in Prabhupada's day, but everybody who wasn't a devotee was a karmi. Strictly speaking, they're not karmis. Karmis are following the Vedic culture. They have fruitive desires and they act piously. Vikarmis, they have the same desires, but they don't follow the Vedic culture. So Shudras and Vikarmis, this is the standard that is off, or the definition, the lower standard that is given when using these terms.
So that is your answer?
Yes, there is more than one definition to Shudra. You're giving the precise and exact definition Narada Muni gives in the 7th canto, and Srila Prabhupada would often call all those non-devotees Shudras, who have sex with their wives like cats and dogs. No regulation at all.
Yes, Rajendranandana Prabhu, a wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the question. You reminded me, there was one thing I was going to say about, in the Ekadashi book, there is mention of one Ekadashi where a king, Vaishnav king, performing his duties perfectly. Everyone was engaged, as they should be. And yet there was a drought. And he couldn't figure out, why is there a drought? And he really prayed on the matter. And he went to the forest to find a sage, a sadhu, who could explain. I examine my life. It's been sinless. I've followed the Brahmins and the scripture my whole life. So what's the deal? So the sadhu, I forget his name, the sage, he was able to tell him, in your country there is one Shudra who is performing Vedic sacrifices. Shudras can't do that. They're not twice born. They haven't been initiated. And he said, well, then what do I do? And he said, if you will follow and get your kingdom to follow this Ekadashi, then the sin of his not following the standard of Vedic culture will be removed. And it's interesting because in the book it doesn't say whether or not he went and chastised him and prohibited him from doing it. They all performed the Ekadashi, Vrata. So once again, I'm a person who can look at something from different angles, and everyone should look within their heart and see if they're properly situated and acting in a way to please Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas. You had a question, Mukunda?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm misunderstanding Pitrloka, but it just doesn't seem to me to be a great sell compared to other heavenly planets, because the other heavenly planets, I have some guarantee of like good amount of time based on my own, pious activities. But Pitrloka, it seems like I would be in a constant state of anxiety because it's dependent on my descendants, and especially because my descendants very quickly, so as soon as Kali Yuga arrives, it's almost like a shoo-in that they're going to stop.
Yeah.
So Pitrloka means I'm going to be enjoying for what, a few hundred years, depending on when I depart. But in this,
a lot of this goes on even in Satyuga on down. Like if memory serves me correctly, the Pritris were worshiping Lord Nrsimhadev, thanking him when he had killed Hiranyakashipu. This rascal was eating our offerings.
Mm-hmm.
We were suffering. And I have a feeling that they get some benefit from their own piety. That's what Krishna fulfilled their desire. And so they get some duration out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know a lot of details.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Hard sell. My answer to that is you don't have a wife like Purvachitti. You don't have children like...
Right.
What was his name? Chitraketu. Or Tara Prabhu. Etc. So, best you don't understand.
And then just to confirm, so I go to Pitrloka, it's a set duration of time before my own piety will run out and I descend from there. And then during that period of time, then just whether I'm getting my meals is what's determined by my descendants. But my duration, Pitrloka, isn't determined by my descendants. It's just, how I'm doing up there.
I think it's both. You get a certain amount of gas. I've seen the video games and the kids playing them, so you can get lives.
Yeah.
You get energy or whatever it is. So you got a certain amount of energy or life on your own. But then unless they start putting more into your account, when yours is over, it's finished. In the previous ages, it probably went on long time because that's the Vedic culture. But it all ends. That's the program. It all ends. And then what are you left with? Come back down to Bharat Varsha and start the Ferris wheel ride again.
And then I guess what makes it a better sell for Pitrloka is that unlike other heavenly planets, your family you're going to be with your family, so that's what makes it particularly attractive, is that other heavenly planets, you don't have that.
Just to make it clear, I'm not trying to sell Pitrloka Prabhus. I'm trying to discourage you from any desire for that. But yeah, they get to be with their family.
So it has that. Yeah, that's a distinction. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the nice thoughts, questions. Did you have a question, Prabhu? It's good to see you. A new face to me. Can somebody? What's your name?
My name is Jason.
I should have introduced myself. Rajendra Nandana. Hare Krishna, Jason.
Hare Krishna. My question was, so when you are actually finally able to leave here and go to the spiritual world, you had mentioned that the supreme planet is Goloka, but with Goloka there are other spiritual planets,
unlimited Vaikuntha planets,
and you go there according to desires. So if you land, let's say, on whatever planet the Ram has, but you wanted to at some point go to Krishna's personal planet, are you ever able to make that change?
Yes, it's possible, but it's very, very rare. And the way it happens is Lord Chaitanya, when he descends, all the different forms of the Lord, expansions of the Lord, they descend with him within his body. He's Krishna Chaitanya. And they kindly bring some of their best devotees. And if you develop a relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and worship him, you're simultaneously worshiping Radha Govinda. And the inconceivableness of the soul is that you can be in more than one place at one time and have more than one relationship with the different forms of the Lord if you so desire. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made it very clear that it is an option if you want to pray to enter into Gaura Lila and Krishna Lila. It's possible. What do you want? Now I will, in all fairness, tell you there's two schools of thoughts on that. Some people think it's predestined, that you have an eternal relationship, and that's not going to change. I just don't ascribe to that. My Shiksha Guru doesn't ascribe to that. The verse I quoted gives pause for thought. According to the desires, they get to go to whatever specific spiritual planet they want. So, very, very rare, but it is possible. See, the thing about love of God, for whatever form you develop it for, will completely satisfy you. So generally speaking, there's no impetus to change. You just want to lovingly reciprocate with your Lord.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, is
You
it...
can go if you have some service, Prabhu. You can go if you have some service. Okay, Prakash.
Yes. Prabhu, is it possible to have like different rasas with Krishna? Like, or is the rasa fixed? Like, or it
Boy,
changes?
we're really getting into the over my pay grade question. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible.
Yes, I've heard many devotees saying that we have like a fixed rasa with Krishna, which is eternal.
Yeah. Yeah, but the how would you say? Once again, that's rare. It's super rare. That's why I say in the absolute realm, there's always exception. That's almost an absolute. There's an exception to everything. Just like, have you heard the story of Arjuna wanting to understand the mood of the gopis in Srimati Radharani? Have you heard that story from the Padma Purana? He's Krishna's friend. He asked about the gopis and Srimati Radharani's glories, and Krishna flat out told him, you can't understand that. Well, how do I become qualified? It's because they were friends. Krishna goes, okay, you approach Maya Devi, you pray for her blessings, and then she will instruct you what to do. She gave him his blessings and told him to go to a pond and to bathe there. And when he became purified after having bathed in that pond, a gopi came and said, here, come with me. You want to understand the love of the gopis for Srimati Radharani? Come with me. She took Arjuna to another pond, and then he bathed in that, and then he came out with a gopi's body, Arjuniya. And she took him to Pitrloka, to the presence of the gopi leaders, etc. And they were all asking him, who are you? Where do you come from? What family are you from? What duties do you do? She didn't know a thing. All he knew was his name. All she knew was her name. And she explained, I can't remember anything. So by the mercy of Krishna, through the mercy of his devotees, then they said, okay, we'll train you up. And they trained Arjuniya up how to serve Srimati Radharani and her assistants and what have you. So that's not. Did he eternally remain as Arjuniya? I'm not sure. Does Narada eternally remain as Naradiya? I'm not sure. But with Lord Chaitanya, your relationship is basically Dasya, Sakya, or Vatsalya. And with Krishna, you add Madhurya. So, can you have different relationships? Hanuman, Murari Gupta with Chaitanya, and Hanuman with Ram. That's, it's possible, but it's for those very rare. Like my Siksha Guru Padmalochan Prabhu. Sometimes disciples of Prabhupada say, "Oh, what was his rasa? He didn't really quite tell us." And some devotees look to the stories and the instructions he gave, indications they feel that he gave for a particular rasa. And then you have, other devotees who say, no question, Srila Prabhupada was Manjari. Not coward boy. Padmalochan said, Srila Prabhupada is so exalted and so unique, he could have both relations. His desire for service, if it's manifest, Krishna's not going to limit his desire to service. Last little drop I'm going to mention, and then I'll end, because it was such nice glorification of Prabhupada. It's something new I learned. Prabhupada one time said to Chaivana Swami, he then told it to Palaka Prabhu, told it to Gora Prabhu, and I'm telling it to you. Prabhupada one time said to him, you think you're my only disciples, but actually I have millions and millions of other disciples. This was not a one-time rodeo for Srila Prabhupada. In a different conversation with Shaivana Swami and Brahmananda Swami, he said, very soon I'm going to be going elsewhere to preach. And they were in Africa, and they thought, oh, okay. Makes sense. We're going on to the next preaching engagement elsewhere. Prabhupada said, no. He said, I would like to go and preach in Patala Loka. So I've said it a couple of times that, some other devotee said Prabhupada felt like preaching in the hellish planets. Well, Patala Loka isn't a hellish planet. It's just a lower planet. It's a high standard of sense gratification there. But immediately, you know what Chaivana Swami and Brahmananda Swami Prabhu said? Can I go with you? Prabhupada said, yes. How much do you want to serve? In what way do you want to serve? That's how Krishna will reciprocate. Srila Prabhupada ke, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ke, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ke,